Eleanor Carter sank to her knees in the saloon dust and pressed a crust of stale bread into her starving boy's hands before the whole town could see him cry. Her 7-year-old girl looked away, pretending she wasn't hungry. Redemption Creek stopped walking to watch. And then a shadow fell across all three of them, long and steady as judgment itself. If you love stories of hardship, grace, and the kind of love that waits through summer heat and winter grief, hit subscribe and stay with me until the very end. Drop a comment and tell me which city you're watching from, so I can see how far this story has traveled. The town of Redemption Creek had names for Eleanor Carter, but not one of them was the name her mother had given her. She knelt in the dust outside the saloon with her 2 children pressed tight against her skirts. Her boy Sam, barely 5, clutched a crust of bread so hard his little knuckles had gone white around it. Her daughter Josie, 7 years old and already practiced at hiding what hurt, held a chipped tin plate scraped with cold beans somebody had left on the back step. "Eat slow, baby," Eleanor whispered. "Slow as you can." "Mama, my belly hurts." "I know it does, honey. I know." "Why can't we go inside and sit down?" Eleanor pressed her lips against his hair. "Because they don't want us inside, Sam." "Why don't they want us?" She had no answer for that. She'd run out of answers somewhere around the 3rd month after Thomas died, and now it had been near a year. A woman in a fresh calico dress hurried past on the boardwalk, holding her skirts up like the dust itself might climb her legs and disgrace her. "Shameful," she muttered, not quite under her breath. "In broad daylight, with children too." "Mama," Josie said quietly. "Hush now, baby." "Mama, that lady said—" "I heard what she said. You just eat your beans." "I'm not hungry anymore." Eleanor looked down at her daughter's face and felt something in her chest split quietly in two. Josie had not been eating enough for weeks. She'd been giving her share to Sam. A 7-year-old girl had been starving herself so her little brother could have a mouthful more, and Eleanor had not been able to stop her. "Josie May Carter," Eleanor whispered. "You eat. You hear me? You eat." "I already did, Mama." "You didn't." "I did, I promise." Eleanor closed her eyes and breathed in, slow through her nose, and did not let the tears happen. Not here. Not on this boardwalk. Not with this town watching. Behind her, the saloon doors clapped open and 3 men walked out laughing. One of them stopped laughing when he saw her. The other 2 kept right on. "Well, look at that," one of them said. "Looks like the widow's taken her supper again." "Supper," another one snorted. "Call that supper, do you?" "Seems to be what she calls it." "Hey boys, don't be cruel," the third one said, but he was smiling when he said it. Eleanor did not lift her eyes. She did not answer. She'd learned that answering only gave them more room to talk. "Ma'am," said the first man, and she could hear the grin in his voice. "Ma'am, you reckon maybe you'd have better luck at the church. They serve stew on Thursdays, I believe." "Church don't want her either," the second one said. "I heard Reverend Pike say so himself." "Is that right?" "That's what I heard." "Well, ma'am, that's a real shame. A real shame." Josie's hand tightened in her mother's skirt. Eleanor felt it. She felt everything today. Every word, every laugh, every breath of wind. A body could only be stripped so many times before every touch started to burn. And then boots came down the boardwalk slow and heavy, and a voice she recognized said, "Boys." Eleanor did not have to look up to know who'd spoken. Wade Turner owned the general store, and he owned half the mortgages in Redemption Creek, and he'd been the first man in town to tell Eleanor Carter her husband's debts were her debts now. "Mr. Turner," one of the saloon men said, touching his hat. "Gentlemen, I see you've found the widow." "She was already here." Wade Turner's boots stopped right in front of Eleanor. She could see the polish on them. She could see the dust that had no business touching a man that well turned out. "Mrs. Carter." "Mr. Turner." "On your knees again, I see." "My children are eating." "Your children are scavenging, Mrs. Carter. There's a word for it, and it ain't eating." "Let my boy finish his bread." Oh, he can finish his bread. I'm not interested in his bread. I'm interested in how much longer you intend to bring this town's name down to your own." Sam's little shoulders started to shake. Eleanor pulled him closer without looking away from Wade Turner's polished boots. "My children have done nothing to your town, Mr. Turner." "Your children are sitting in the street eating trash, Mrs. Carter. That reflects on all of us. Every single one of us." "Then look away, sir." "Beg pardon? I said look away." Eleanor finally raised her eyes. Her voice had not gone up, but something inside it had sharpened. "If it troubles you so much, sir, look away." Wade Turner smiled. It was the kind of smile a man wears when he's about to enjoy something. "Mrs. Carter, ma'am, you don't seem to understand the position you're in." "I understand it fine." "Do you?" "Because from where I'm standing, you're one step from the county taking those children off you, and 2 steps from the kind of woman this town don't allow to stay inside its limits. Now I've been patient. I've been downright Christian. But you owe my store $4.60, and I don't forget that kind of figure." "I'll pay it." "With what, Mrs. Carter?" Eleanor did not answer. "With what?" Turner said again, louder now, because the boardwalk had gone quiet, and he'd noticed. "Go on. Tell these good people how you intend to pay." "Mama," Josie whispered. "Hush, baby." "Mama, please, let's go." "We can't go yet, honey. Sam hasn't finished." "I'm done, Mama," Sam said quickly. "I'm all done. I ain't hungry no more." He was hungry. Eleanor could see the crust still in his hand, and she could feel him trembling against her, and she knew her little boy was lying to get them out of the street. Something broke in her, then quietly, the way a rafter breaks in a storm before the whole roof comes down. "Stand up, Sam," she said. "Stand up, baby. We'll go." "Oh no," Wade Turner said, stepping sideways so his shadow fell across her face. "Oh no, Mrs. Carter. I'd like my $4.60 first. Mr. Turner." "Or a promise of it. A signed promise, right here in front of witnesses." "I don't have paper." "I've got paper." "I don't have ink." "I've got ink, Mrs. Carter." "Mr. Turner, please." "Please what? Please let you crawl off into the alley and scrape somebody else's leavings tomorrow. That what you're asking me? Please let my children go home." "You don't have a home, Mrs. Carter." The words hit her harder than she expected. Her head went down before she could stop it. Josie made a small sound beside her, a sound Eleanor had never heard her daughter make before, and that sound was worse than anything Wade Turner had said. And then somewhere behind them, all boots hit the boardwalk. Different boots. Not polished. Not hurrying. Just coming. "Turner." The voice was low and quiet, and carried the way a church bell carries across a prairie. Wade Turner turned. His smile adjusted itself. "Hayes. Step back from the lady." "I beg your pardon." "You heard me. Step back." Eleanor did not raise her head. She knew the name. Everybody in Redemption Creek knew the name. Caleb Hayes owned the biggest ranch north of the river, and he came into town maybe 4 times a year, and he did not speak unless spoken to, and when he did speak, men listened. "Hayes, this is a private matter between me and Mrs. Carter." "It ain't private when you're holding it in the street." "I'm collecting a debt." "You're bothering a woman in front of her children. Step back." Wade Turner did not step back right away. He held his ground for about 3 heartbeats, and then he stepped back, and he did it while smiling, so nobody would know he'd done it. "Mr. Hayes, if you'd like to assume Mrs. Carter's debts, I'd be happy to. I didn't ask you about debts, Turner." "Well, someone needs to. Someone does. It ain't gonna be you." Eleanor raised her head then. She had to. She had to see the man who had just moved the town off her chest. He was tall. That was the first thing. Tall and weathered and maybe 40, with a hat pulled low and a jaw that looked like it had not smiled in a long time and didn't intend to start now. He was not looking at Wade Turner anymore. He was looking down at Sam. "Son," Caleb Hayes said quietly. "How old are you?" Sam's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "It's all right, you can tell me." 5? Sam whispered. 5 years old. Yes, sir. And your sister? Josie looked up. 7, sir. 7. That's a fine age. Thank you, sir. Caleb Hayes nodded once. Then he crouched down. He did it slow, the way a man crouches around a spooked horse, and he stayed there on one knee in the dust of the saloon boardwalk, and when he spoke again, his voice had gone even lower. Mrs. Carter. Mr. Hayes. Ma'am, I'd like you to stand up now. I can't, sir. Why can't you, ma'am? Because if I stand up, my boy'll see me shake. Caleb Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Ma'am, you let him see you shake. That boy's held together by watching his mama. You let him see it all. He won't break. Neither will you. Eleanor Carter had not cried in front of another human being in 11 months. She had cried in closets, in barns, in the back of a wagon, into a pillow, into her own hands. She had not cried in front of a man. She cried now, quiet. No sound. Mrs. Carter. Yes, sir. Get your things. Sir. Get your things, ma'am. You and those children. You're coming home with me. The boardwalk went perfectly still. Mr. Hayes. I'm not asking, ma'am. You can't just, I can. I'm doing it. I don't know you, sir. You know my name. The rest we'll learn. Mr. Hayes, I am not a woman who... I know what kind of woman you are, Mrs. Carter. I've been watching this town treat you for half a year. I should have come down off that ridge 6 months ago. Sir, I have nothing to give you. Didn't ask for nothing. Men don't take women and children off the street for nothing. This one does. Wade Turner cleared his throat. Hayes, a word. No. Just one word, neighbor. I said no, Turner. You are making a spectacle. The spectacle was already made. I'm ending it. Eleanor put her hand on Sam's shoulder to steady herself and rose. Her knees nearly went out from under her. Caleb Hayes did not reach for her. He waited. When she was upright, he stood up too slow and easy, as if he'd done nothing at all. Ma'am, that all you got? There's a bundle at the boarding house. Martha Bell's? Yes, sir. I'll fetch it. You wait with the children. Sir. Ma'am, I haven't said yes. Caleb Hayes looked down at her. His eyes were gray, and they were tired, and they were not unkind. No, ma'am, you haven't. I have pride, Mr. Hayes. I know you do. I can't just... Mrs. Carter, your boy was eating bread off the ground. Eleanor's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. Pride don't feed a 5-year-old, ma'am. I know. My mama had a world of pride. My sister had a world of pride. Pride don't feed nobody. Mr. Hayes. Ma'am, if I come with you, when you come with me, if I come with you, I will work. I will cook. I will clean. I will mend. I will do every honest thing a woman can do in a house. I will not take charity from any man, not even a good one. Is that understood? Yes, ma'am. And if you ever... I won't, ma'am. You don't know what I was about to say. I know what you were about to say. I'm telling you I won't. Eleanor looked at him a long moment. Then she looked down at Josie. Her daughter was watching her mother's face the way Josie always did, trying to read what was safe to feel. Josie, Eleanor said, can you carry Sam for a minute? Yes, Mama. Mr. Hayes is going to fetch our things. Then we are going to go with him. Yes, Mama. Do you understand? Yes, Mama. Are you afraid? Josie looked up at Caleb Hayes. She studied him the way a 7-year-old studies a man, which is to say, with a very old kind of honesty. No, Mama, she said. I ain't afraid. Caleb Hayes touched the brim of his hat. Miss Josie? Sir? I'll be back directly. He walked. He did not hurry. He passed Wade Turner without looking at him, and Wade Turner did not speak, and nobody on the boardwalk spoke, and the whole of Redemption Creek stood there in the summer sun, watching a rancher walk down the street toward Martha Bell's boarding house to fetch a widow's bundle. Eleanor Carter stood in the dust with her 2 children and did not look at anyone. She looked at the middle distance the way a body does when it has been caught between shame and deliverance and cannot yet tell which one has won. "Mama," Sam whispered. "Yes, baby." "Is that man taking us away?" "Yes, Sam." "To his house?" "Yes, baby." "Is he gonna feed us?" Eleanor closed her eyes. "Yes, Sam, he's gonna feed you." "Mama." "Yes." "I'm real hungry, Mama." "I know, honey. Can I finish my bread now?" Eleanor looked down at the crust still clenched in her little boy's hand. Then she looked down the street where Caleb Hayes had gone. Then she looked at Wade Turner, who had not moved, who was watching her with an expression she could not read and did not care to. "Yes, Sam," she said. "You finish your bread." He ate it standing up. He ate it slow the way she had taught him, and he did not drop a single crumb, and Josie watched him eat and did not ask for any. And Eleanor Carter stood between her two children in the middle of the street, in the middle of the town that had tried to break her. And for the first time in 11 months, her hands were not shaking. Down the boardwalk, boots were coming back, slow, heavy, steady as judgment itself. Caleb Hayes came back with her bundle over his shoulder like it weighed nothing, and Eleanor Carter saw right away that Martha Bell was following him. "Eleanor," Martha called, hurrying in her good shoes. "Eleanor Carter, you stop right where you are." "Martha." "Don't you?" "Martha, me. Is it true what this man just told me?" "It's true. You are getting in a wagon with a man you do not know." "I know his name, Martha. His name ain't his character." "Ma'am," Caleb said quietly, touching his hat brim. "Mrs. Bell, I ain't trying to run off with her." "You are, in fact, running off with her, Mr. Hayes." "No, ma'am, she's walking. I'm walking beside her." Martha Bell looked at Eleanor, and her eyes were wet. Honey, you come back to the boarding house with me. I'll find a way. I will. I swear on my mother's grave I'll find a way." "Martha." "I will." "You can't. You've been finding ways for 3 months. There ain't no more ways." "Eleanor." "My boy ate bread off the ground, Martha." Martha's mouth closed. Her hand went up to it. "He ate bread off the ground," Eleanor said again, softer. "And you know what the worst part was? He was happy about it. He looked up at me and he smiled, because he found something. My baby smiled because he found a piece of stale bread in the dirt. Oh, Lord. I am going with Mr. Hayes. Eleanor, if he so much as, he won't. You don't know that. Neither do you, Martha. Neither does anybody. But I am standing here, and my son is hungry, and that man yonder has a wagon and a kitchen, and I am done being proud in front of the wrong people." Martha Bell took a long breath. Then she reached into her apron and pulled out a small paper twist and pressed it into Josie's hand. "Sugar," she whispered. "Don't tell your brother till you're outside town." "Yes'm." "And Josie may." "Yes'm. If that man is not kind to your mama, you send me word. You hear me, child?" "Yes'm, I hear you." Martha looked up at Caleb Hayes, and her voice was not friendly. "Mr. Hayes?" "Ma'am." "I have known that woman for 11 months. I have watched this town grind her down to bone. If you are one more set of boots on her neck, I will burn your ranch down myself. Is that understood, sir?" "Yes, ma'am." "I am not joking." "No, ma'am, I can see that." "Good." Caleb helped Sam up into the wagon first, then lifted Josie, and when he turned to offer Eleanor his hand, she stared at it a long moment before she took it. His palm was rough, the way a working man's palm is rough and warm and steady, and he let go the instant her foot touched the wagon bed. She noticed that. She noticed everything today. "Hiya," Caleb said, and the wagon moved. Redemption. Creek watched them go. Eleanor felt the eyes on her back like heat. She did not turn around. Sam pressed against her ribs on one side, and Josie on the other, and the wagon rolled past the church, past Wade Turner's general store, past a clutch of women at the pump who stopped talking when they passed, and started again the second the wagon was by. "Mama," Josie whispered. "Yes, baby." "They're looking." Let 'em look, honey. They're saying things. Let 'em say. Mama, one of 'em said Josie May. Eleanor took her daughter's chin and turned her face forward. You are done listening to this town. You hear me from right now. You are done. Yes, Mama. Eyes forward. Yes, Mama. The wagon rolled out past the last fence post, and the boardwalks fell away behind them, and Eleanor Carter did not realize she had been holding her breath until the town was gone and her chest finally let go. Caleb Hayes drove without speaking. He drove for a long time. Sam fell asleep against her side before they'd gone 2 miles, his little mouth open, a smear of beans still at the corner of it. Josie did not sleep. Josie was watching the back of Caleb Hayes's neck. Mr. Hayes? Miss Josie. How far is your house, sir? About an hour yet. Is it big? It's big enough. Do you got chickens? I got chickens. How many? Didn't count lately. Maybe 14. 14 chickens. Yes, miss. Mr. Hayes. Miss Josie. Do you got a wife? Eleanor's hand tightened on her daughter's shoulder. Josie, I'm just asking Mama. That ain't our business, honey. It's all right, ma'am, Caleb said without turning. No, miss, I ain't got a wife. Did you ever been Josie May Carter? It's all right, ma'am. No, miss. I never did. Why not? Josie. Guess I never found one fool enough to take me. Josie considered that. Mama says foolish is when you know better and do it anyway. Your mama's right. So you've been waiting on a smart one. Caleb Hayes laughed. It was a short, rusty sound, like a hinge that hadn't moved in a long time, and Eleanor heard it and did not know what to do with it. Miss Josie, I believe you're the smart one in this wagon. Mama says I'm too smart for my own good. Mamas say that when they're proud and trying not to show it. Josie sat with that a minute. Then she leaned against her mother and closed her eyes, and did not speak again for the rest of the ride. Eleanor watched the back of Caleb Hayes' neck and tried to understand what had just happened to her life. A man she did not know was driving her children away from a town that had wanted to crush her. She had no agreement in writing. She had no clarity on what he expected. She had only his name and his word, and the fact that her son was sleeping with a full enough belly to dream. Mr. Hayes? Ma'am. I need to say something now so I don't have to say it later. Go on, ma'am. I had a husband. I know you did, ma'am. His name was Thomas Carter. He was a blacksmith. He was a good man until the fever took half this county, and then he was a sick man, and then he was a dying man, and then he was a dead man, and he left me $412 of debt I did not know existed. Ma'am, I am not finished. No, ma'am. I sold the forge. I sold his tools. I sold my mother's ring. I sold the bed. I did not sell my children, and I did not sell myself, and there were nights in that boarding house when both choices were on the table. Mrs. Carter, I am still not finished. No, ma'am. I am telling you this so that when the town tells you a version of it, you will already know the true one. Thomas Carter did not drink. He did not gamble. He borrowed money to buy iron, and the iron came in rusted, and the man he bought it from died before the dispute could be settled, and the man's brother came calling with paper I could not read. That is the story. That is the whole story. Do you understand me, Mr. Hayes? Yes, ma'am. I am not a loose woman. I am not a shiftless woman. I am not a woman who sits on a boardwalk with her children because she likes the view. I am a woman who ran out of doors to knock on. Yes, ma'am. And if you think you have taken on a charity, sir, you are mistaken. I will work. I will earn. And the day I have earned enough to pay you back for every meal those children eat under your roof, I will walk off your ranch and not trouble you again. Caleb Hayes did not answer for a long moment. The wagon rolled. A crow called somewhere off to the left. Mrs. Carter. Yes, sir. I had a sister. Eleanor's hand stilled on Sam's hair. Her name was Ruth. She was 3 years younger than me. She married a man named John Pickett when she was 19, and he was 22, and he died of a kick to the head from a mule when he was 26, and he left her with a boy of 4 and a girl of 2 and no money at all. Mr. Hayes, I was in Abilene when it happened. I was driving cattle. It took 3 weeks for word to reach me. By the time I got home, she had been turned out of her house. Her neighbors had watched it. The bank had done it legal. A preacher had blessed it. Nobody had lifted a finger. Oh, Mr. Hayes. I found her in a barn outside of Wichita. The boy was alive. The girl was not. Ruth lived 8 more days and she did not speak to me in any of them, and I buried her next to her daughter, and I took the boy back to my ranch and raised him till he was 16 and run off to sea. I am so sorry, sir. Mrs. Carter, I am not a rescuer. I am a man who failed once and has been waiting for the chance to not fail again. That is what you have walked into. That is the charity you think I am given. I am paying a debt to a dead woman, and if you do me the honor of letting me pay it, I will not ever hold it over you. Is that understood, ma'am? Eleanor Carter put her hand over her mouth and held it there. Yes, sir, she said through her fingers. Good. Mr. Hayes. Ma'am, what was her name again? Ruth. Ruth. Yes, ma'am. That is a fine name. Yes, ma'am, it was. They did not speak again until the wagon came over the rise and Caleb said, There it is, ma'am. And Eleanor looked up and saw the ranch for the first time. She had expected something bigger, something proud. What she saw instead was a low house with a long porch and 2 outbuildings and a fence that was straight and a well with a rope that had been coiled neat. It was not a wealthy place. It was a kept place. A man had been living there alone and keeping it the way a man keeps a thing he respects. Mr. Hayes. Ma'am? Who cooks for you? I do, ma'am. Who mends for you? I do, ma'am. Who sits with you at supper? Nobody, ma'am. Eleanor Carter closed her eyes for a second. All right, sir. All right, ma'am. All right. He drove the wagon into the yard, and a man came out of the barn, wiping his hands on a rag. He was maybe 30 thin, and he stopped walking when he saw the wagon bed. Caleb? Ezra. Who's this? Mrs. Carter and her children. They'll be staying. Ezra Boone looked at Caleb Hayes a long moment. Then he looked at Eleanor. Then he tipped his hat. Ma'am? Sir. Ezra Boone. I work for Mr. Hayes. Eleanor Carter. Ma'am, if you don't mind my saying so, you look about wore through. I am, sir. Let's get them little ones inside. Ezra lifted Sam down without waking him. Josie climbed down on her own. Eleanor took Caleb's hand a second time and let it go the instant her feet touched dirt. The house was plain inside and clean, and a man had lived there a long time alone. Eleanor saw it all in one glance the way women do. A wooden table with 2 chairs, not 4. A single cup on the shelf. A kettle on the stove. A cot in the corner that had been slept on by one body for a long time. Mr. Hayes? Ma'am. You got 2 chairs. Yes, ma'am. There's 4 of us. I'll make 2 more tomorrow, ma'am. All right, sir. She stood in the middle of his kitchen with her 2 children and her bundle, and she did not know what to do with her hands. Caleb saw it. Ma'am. Yes, sir? There's flour in the barrel, and salt pork in the smokehouse, and eggs in the basket by the door. There's a well out back. There's coffee on the shelf. You do what you want with any of it. Sir. Mrs. Carter. Are you telling me to cook? I'm telling you this is your kitchen now. My kitchen. Yes, ma'am. I ain't had a kitchen in 11 months, sir. I know it, ma'am. Eleanor Carter put her bundle down on the table and untied it slow. Inside was a folded dress that was not hers anymore, a wooden horse Thomas had carved for Sam, a Bible that had been her mother's, a lock of her daughter's baby hair, and a tin cup. That was everything she owned. She set the tin cup on the shelf next to Caleb Hayes's cup. She did not say anything when she did it. Neither did he. Then she washed her hands in the basin and rolled up her sleeves, and she opened the flour barrel, and she started to work. Sam woke up an hour later to the smell of biscuits. Mama, right here, baby. Mama, where are we? We're at Mr. Hayes's house. Is this supper? This is supper. For us. Eleanor's hands paused over the biscuit pan. Yes, Sam, for us. All of it. All of it. Sam sat up on the cot where Ezra had laid him, and he looked at the table, and he looked at his mother, and his lower lip began to tremble. Sam. Mama. Baby, what's wrong? Mama? I ain't supposed to be hungry no more, am I? Eleanor set the pan down. She crossed the room. She got down on her knees in front of her little boy, and she took his face in her floured hands. No, baby. No. No, Sam. You ain't supposed to be hungry no more. Not tonight, not tomorrow, not the day after. Promise, Mama. She could not say yes. She would not lie to her son. But she could not say no either because the biscuits were on the pan, and the meat was in the skillet, and a man she did not know had told her this was her kitchen now. I promise you will eat tonight, Sam. That is what I promise. Okay, Mama. Okay, baby. Mama. Yes. The man. Mr. Hayes. Mr. Hayes, he's a nice man, ain't he? Eleanor looked over her shoulder. Caleb Hayes was standing in the doorway with his hat in his hand, and he had been standing there long enough to hear every word, and his face had not moved, but his eyes had. Yes, Sam. Eleanor said quietly, still looking at Caleb. He is a nice man. Caleb Hayes put his hat on the peg by the door and walked past her to the wash basin and scrubbed his hands and sat down at the table without a word. They ate together that night, all four of them, Eleanor and Caleb, at the 2 chairs, and the children on an overturned crate Ezra had wiped clean. Sam ate 3 biscuits and cried because he could not eat a 4th. Josie ate slow and careful and did not speak. Caleb Hayes ate like a man who had forgotten what company tasted like. When it was over, Eleanor stood to clear the plates, and Caleb stood too. Ma'am. Sir. I'll wash. You'll do no such thing, Mr. Hayes. Mrs. Carter. Sir. I agreed to come to this ranch on the understanding that I would work for every crumb my children put in their mouths. You will not start taking that from me on the first night. Ma'am? Sit down, sir. Caleb Hayes sat down. Yes, ma'am. Ezra Boone from the corner where he had been eating quietly said, Caleb. Ezra. I like her. Go to bed, Ezra. Yes, boss. Ezra tipped his hat to Eleanor and walked out. Eleanor washed the plates. Caleb banked the fire. The children were already asleep on the cot, tangled together like puppies. Nobody spoke for a long time. Then Caleb said, Ma'am, I'll sleep in the barn tonight. Mr. Hayes. Ma'am. This is your house. Yes, ma'am. You will sleep in your house. I will sleep on the floor by my children. We will figure out the rest tomorrow. Ma'am. Mr. Hayes. Ma'am. I am too tired to argue, sir. Yes, ma'am. He took a blanket from a chest by the wall and laid it folded on the floor near the cot, without saying a word. Then he took his boots off at the door which Eleanor noticed, and he walked to his own bed in the next room and did not close the door all the way. Eleanor lay down on the folded blanket between her sleeping children and the open doorway. She listened to Sam's breathing. She listened to Josie's. She listened to the ranch settle around her, the creak of timbers cooling and the far-off sound of a horse shifting in the barn. She listened for Caleb Hayes in the next room, and when his breathing finally slowed, she closed her own eyes. And for the first time in 11 months, Eleanor Carter slept without being afraid of morning. What she did not know, and what Caleb Hayes did not know, was that back in Redemption Creek, Wade Turner had already sat down at his desk by lamplight, and he had already opened a ledger, and he had already begun to write in his neat merchant's hand a letter to a circuit judge he knew in the next county. A letter about a woman of unfit character who had been seen in the company of children she could no longer feed, and who had now in broad daylight been carried off by an unmarried man into a dwelling where no lawful witness resided. Wade Turner signed his name, blotted it careful, and folded the paper in 3. 3 mornings later, Ezra Boone came riding in from town with his mouth in a hard line, and Caleb Hayes saw the look on his face before the horse had even stopped moving. Ezra. Boss. Spit it out. Not in front of her boss. Eleanor was standing at the kitchen window with her hands in dishwater. She did not turn around. She did not have to. Mr. Boone. Ma'am, if it concerns me, say it in front of me. Ezra looked at Caleb. Caleb nodded. Ma'am, there's a paper going round town. A paper? Yes, ma'am. Signed by Mr. Turner. Says you was seen begging in the street. Says the children was scavenging. Says Mr. Hayes took you up without a witness present. That's true, Mr. Boone. All of it. Ma'am, there's more. Go on. Says the county may have grounds to take the children. Eleanor's hands went still in the dishwater. Ezra. Yes, boss. Go tend to the horses. Yes, boss. Ezra Boone walked out. Eleanor did not turn around. Caleb did not move from the doorway. Mrs. Carter. Don't say it, Mr. Hayes. Mrs. Carter. Don't you say one word to comfort me, sir. Not one. If you say one word to comfort me right now, I will come apart on this floor. Yes, ma'am. She stood there a long moment. Then she took her hands out of the dishwater and dried them careful on her apron and turned around. Where is my daughter? In the yard with Sam. And they have not heard this? No, ma'am. Good. Mrs. Carter. Yes, sir? Nobody has taken your children. You can't promise that, Mr. Hayes. Ma'am. You cannot. A judge can. A sheriff can. The county can. You cannot. Mrs. Carter, a man with a ranch and a name and 40 years on this land can promise a great many things. Then promise me something else, sir. Name it. Promise me if it comes to that you will not fight for me. You will let me take my children and go. No, ma'am. Mr. Hayes? No, ma'am. I will not promise that. Sir? Mrs. Carter, I already lost one woman because nobody fought. I will not lose a second. Eleanor Carter looked at him a long moment. Then she sat down at the kitchen table because her legs would not hold her, and she put her face in her hands, and she did not cry. She just breathed. That was Tuesday. On Wednesday, Ruth Mayfield rode in from the neighboring ranch with a basket of eggs and a worried face. She was a small woman, maybe 40, with hands that had done every kind of work a woman's hands could do, and she did not dismount until Caleb had come out of the barn. Mr. Hayes? Mrs. Mayfield. I come to meet your house guest. Have you? I have, and I come to tell you something my husband said at supper last night that I did not care for. Ma'am, he said Wade Turner has been in our parlor twice this week. He said Wade Turner is collecting signatures. Signatures for what? A petition, Mr. Hayes, asking the circuit judge to make a visit. Caleb Hayes took his hat off and ran his hand through his hair. How many has he got? 9 last I heard. 9. My husband's name is on it. Caleb went very still. Ruth. I know it, Caleb, I know. Your husband put his name on a paper against a woman he has never met. He put his name on a paper because Wade Turner holds the note on our north pasture, and Wade Turner told him plain that good Christian folk was expected to stand up and be counted. Ruth Mayfield. Caleb Hayes. You ride home, and you tell your husband that if that paper reaches a judge, it will be the last paper he ever signs against a neighbor. Caleb, I did not come here to carry a threat back. Then why did you come, Ruth? Ruth Mayfield swung down off her horse. She walked past Caleb without answering him. She walked up the porch steps, and she knocked on the kitchen door, and she waited. Eleanor opened it. Mrs. Carter. Mrs. Mayfield. I brought eggs. That is kind of you, ma'am. I brought them because my husband signed a paper against you, and I did not, and I wanted you to know the difference. Eleanor took the basket. Her hand shook when she took it. Mrs. Mayfield. Ma'am, would you care to come in? I would, ma'am. Thank you. Ruth Mayfield sat at Eleanor Carter's kitchen table for 2 hours that afternoon. They did not speak of the petition once. They spoke of children, and of bread, and of a recipe for vinegar pie that Ruth's mother had taught her, and when Ruth stood to leave, she took Eleanor's hand and held it a long moment. Mrs. Carter. Yes, ma'am? You are not alone out here. Thank you, ma'am. I mean it. I am 1 mile east. If it comes down hard on you, you send Josie running and she will find my door open." "Yes, ma'am." And Mrs. Carter, "Ma'am, don't you run." Eleanor's eyes came up. "Ma'am, I seen it in your face the minute I walked in. You are already planning to run. Don't you do it. You run and Turner wins. You stand and maybe the rest of us learn how to stand next to you." Eleanor Carter did not answer that. Ruth Mayfield did not wait for her to. On Thursday afternoon, Josie came running in from the yard with her face red and her breath short, and she did not go to her mother. She went straight to Caleb Hayes where he was mending a bridle on the porch. "Mr. Hayes?" "Miss Josie." "Sir?" "What is it, child?" "Sir, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the true answer." Caleb set the bridle down. "All right, miss." "Sir, what does it mean when a grown man says my mama is the kind of woman a town don't let stay inside its limits?" Caleb Hayes went very still. "Where did you hear that, Josie?" "In the yard, sir. Mr. Ezra was talking to a man who rode up from town. They didn't know I was in the hen house." "What man, Josie?" "I don't know, sir. A stranger." "Tall, thin?" "Yes, sir. With a hat with a broken brim." Caleb's jaw tightened. "Josie May." "Sir?" "Look at me, child." "Yes, sir. Your mama is the finest woman in this county. You hear me?" "Yes, sir." "A grown man who says what you just heard is not a man. He is a mouth. You understand me?" "Yes, sir." "And Josie?" "Yes, sir." "You do not tell your mama what you heard today. You come to me. You hear?" "Yes, sir." "Good girl." Josie May Carter stood on the porch a long moment with her fists clenched at her sides. "Mr. Hayes?" "Miss Josie." "I'm not a baby, sir." "I know it. My mama has been crying at night. I hear her. She thinks I don't." "Josie." "She thinks I don't hear her, sir, but I do." Caleb Hayes put his hand on the top of the little girl's head for the briefest moment, and then he took it away. "I know she does, child." "Are you going to let them take us, Mr. Hayes?" "No, Josie." "Promise, sir." "I promise, child." Josie Carter nodded once hard and walked back out to her brother in the yard, like she had never asked the question. By Friday, Eleanor was not sleeping. She lay on her folded blanket between her children, and she stared at the ceiling timbers, and she counted the things she could carry if she left before dawn. 2 dresses, the Bible, the wooden horse, the tin cup. Josie could carry Sam for the first mile. After that, Eleanor would carry him herself. If they walked east, they could be at the railhead by evening. If they walked south, they could be across the county line by sundown the second day. She was doing this arithmetic for the 3rd night in a row when Sam coughed. Then he coughed again. Then he sat up and threw up in his own lap. "Sam? Mama. Oh, baby. Mama, my head." "Josie. Josie, wake up." "Mama. Get Mr. Hayes." Josie ran. Caleb came in from the other room pulling his shirt on, and he took one look at Sam and said, "Ezra?" "Yes, boss." "Ride for Doc Whitfield." "Boss, it's near midnight." "I know what time it is. Ride." Ezra rode. Sam's fever went up by lamplight. Eleanor held him on her lap in the rocking chair Caleb had carried in from the barn that first week, and she wiped his forehead with a cool cloth, and she sang the hymn her mother had sung, and Sam shivered and clung to her and did not know where he was. "Mama." "I'm right here, baby." "Mama, where's Mr. Hayes?" "He's right here too, Sam. Look." Sam turned his head. Caleb Hayes was sitting on the floor next to the rocking chair, with his back against the wall, and he had been sitting there for 3 hours without moving. "Mr. Hayes." "Sam." "My belly hurts again." "I know, son." "Not like before." "I know it ain't like before. It's a different hurt." "Yes, son." "Mr. Hayes." "Yes, son." "Am I gonna die like my daddy did?" Eleanor made a sound against the top of Sam's head that no mother should ever make, and Caleb Hayes reached out slow and put his hand flat against the boy's small back. "No, Sam." Promise, sir. You are not dying tonight, son. Not in this house. Not on my watch. Okay, Mr. Hayes. Okay, son. Dr. Whitfield came at 3 in the morning. He was an old man, tired, and he laid his hands on Sam and listened to his chest and opened his bag and did what doctors did in that country in those years, which was not much and was all there was. Mrs. Carter? Yes, doctor. Your boy's got a summer fever. It's going around. 2 children in town already. Is it? It ain't the bad kind, ma'am. Not yet. You keep him cool. You keep water in him. You keep watch. Yes, doctor. Mrs. Carter? Doctor. Was he eatin' regular before this week? Eleanor could not answer. Ma'am. No, doctor. How long? Months. Dr. Whitfield closed his bag slow. He looked at Caleb Hayes. Caleb Hayes looked back at him. Mr. Hayes? Doctor. This boy is in this house now. Yes, sir. He stays in this house. Yes, sir. Anybody comes asking me whether this child is being cared for, I am going to tell them he is being cared for better than any child in this county. Is that understood, Mr. Hayes? Yes, doctor, thank you. Don't thank me. I'm writing what I saw. Dr. Whitfield rode out at first light. Sam's fever broke at noon, and at 3 o'clock that afternoon, Wade Turner rode into the yard with the county sheriff beside him and a folded paper in his hand. Eleanor saw them first through the kitchen window. She went very still. Then she walked to the doorway of the bedroom where Sam was sleeping, and she closed the door soft, and she walked out onto the porch and stood there with her hands folded in front of her apron. Mr. Turner? Mrs. Carter? Sheriff Mills? Ma'am? My boy is sick, gentlemen. I would thank you to keep your voices low. Ma'am, we have come on county business. I gathered as much, Sheriff. Caleb Hayes came around the corner of the barn at a walk. He did not hurry. He stopped 10 feet from the horses, and he did not take his hat off. Turner. Hayes. Sheriff. Caleb. What's the paper, Mills? Caleb now. What is the paper? Sheriff Mills sighed. He was a man in his 50s who had known Caleb Hayes for 20 years and did not want to be on that porch that afternoon. Caleb, it's a petition, signed by 11 citizens, asking for a welfare review on the Carter children. 11? Yes. Turner got 2 more since Wednesday. He did. And you rode out here to serve it. I rode out here, Caleb, because if I don't, the circuit judge sends a marshal, and a marshal don't know you, and a marshal don't know her, and a marshal takes them children in a wagon back to town and holds them in the jail until the hearing. I rode out here so that don't happen. Caleb Hayes took a long breath. All right, Mills. Caleb. When's the hearing? Monday. 4 days. 4 days. Wade Turner smiled then. He could not help himself. He smiled down from his horse and he said, Mrs. Carter, I did warn you. Eleanor did not look at him. She looked at Sheriff Mills. Sheriff. Ma'am. My boy has a fever. Dr. Whitfield was here before dawn. He wrote a note. Would you care to see it? I would, ma'am. She walked inside. She came back with the paper. Sheriff Mills read it. He read it twice. Then he folded it careful and handed it back. Mr. Turner. Sheriff. You did not tell me that doctor had been to this house. I did not know. You did not ask. Sheriff. Mr. Turner, you rode with me today telling me a sick, neglected child was out here living in squalor. I am standing on a clean porch, talking to a sober woman in a washed apron, and the county doctor has been here inside of 12 hours and wrote that this boy is cared for better than any child in the county. Now either you lied to me, sir, or you are a fool. Which is it? Wade Turner's mouth opened. I asked you a question, sir. Sheriff, the petition stands. 11 men signed it. The petition stands. The hearing will happen. But I will tell you something for free, Mr. Turner. I will be at that hearing. And I will testify to what I have seen on this porch today. Is that understood, sir? Yes, Sheriff. Good day, Mr. Turner. Sheriff. I said good day, sir. They rode out. Eleanor Carter stood on the porch until their dust was gone. Then she walked inside, and she walked past Caleb without looking at him. And she walked into the bedroom where Sam was sleeping, and she closed the door behind her, and she did not come out for an hour. When she did come out, she had her bundle in her hand. Mrs. Carter. Mr. Hayes? Ma'am. Put the bundle down. I cannot, sir. Ma'am, if I am not here on Monday, sir, there is no hearin'. If there is no hearin', you are not tied to us. If you are not tied to us, Wade Turner has no lever to pull against you. It is arithmetic, sir. Mrs. Carter. It is arithmetic. Put the bundle down, Nell. She stopped. Nobody had called her Nell in 11 months. Her mother had called her Nell. Thomas had called her Nell. Mr. Hayes? Ma'am, you do not have the right to call me that. No, ma'am. Then why did you? Because I am asking you something and I wanted you to hear it as a person and not as a problem. Sir? Put the bundle down. No. Nell. No, Caleb. She said his name. She heard herself say it. She had not meant to. The wind picked up outside low and strange, and Caleb Hayes tilted his head half an inch toward the window without taking his eyes off her. Ma'am? What? Weather's comin'. I don't care about the weather. You will. Mr. Hayes, I am walking out this door with my children, and I am doing it now. Where, Nell? Anywhere. With a boy who had a fever 8 hours ago. I will carry him. 40 miles. If I have to, sir, yes. Caleb Hayes took one step toward her. He did not reach for the bundle. He did not raise his voice. Nell. Don't. Nell, look at me. I will not. Look at me, ma'am. She looked at him. Everywhere I go, she whispered, I become a burden somebody has to carry. The wind hit the side of the house. A shutter banged. Somewhere behind the barn, a loose piece of tin began to rattle. The first fat drops of a summer storm hit the porch boards like thrown stones. Caleb Hayes did not move. Mrs. Carter? Sir? You are not something I carry. Mr. Hayes, you are not something I carry, Nell. You are what makes this house a house. You are what makes that table a table. You are the reason that boy in there asked me tonight if he was gonna die and I had an answer. You are not a burden in this house. You are the roof of it. Eleanor Carter dropped the bundle. She did not mean to. Her hand just let go. Caleb. Nell. Caleb, I cannot stay and watch them take my children on Monday. They are not taking your children on Monday. You don't know that. I do. How? Because I am riding into town tomorrow morning, Nell, and I am riding into the middle of Redemption Creek, and I am going to make Wade Turner wish he had never heard the name Carter. Caleb. Yes, ma'am. If you do that for us, there is no undoing it. I know it, ma'am. The whole town will see. I am counting on that. Thunder broke over the ranch, then long and rolling and close, and Sam called out from the bedroom in a small, scared voice, and Josie's bare feet came padding down the hall, and Eleanor Carter turned to go to her children. At the bedroom door she stopped. She did not turn around. Caleb. Yes. My husband called me Nell. I know it, ma'am. You have not earned that name yet, sir. No, ma'am? But you may. She went into the bedroom. She closed the door behind her. The storm broke open over the ranch in full, and Caleb Hayes stood alone in his own front room with her bundle at his feet, and he bent down slow, and he picked it up, and he set it careful on the kitchen table where she would find it in the morning. Then he went to his chair by the window, and he sat down, and he watched the rain come sideways across the yard, and he did not sleep that night, and he was not tired in the morning. Caleb Hayes rode into Redemption Creek an hour after sunrise on Saturday, and he did not ride alone. Ezra Boone rode at his right shoulder. Ruth Mayfield rode at his left in a plain gray dress with her Bible in her saddlebag because she had come across the pasture at 4 in the morning and told her husband she was going whether he signed another paper or not. Caleb. Ruth. You know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing. You know what it'll cost. I know that too. Then let's ride. They tied up at the general store, because that was where Caleb meant to start. Wade Turner was already behind the counter. He looked up when the bell rang. He saw Caleb Hayes, then he saw Ezra, then he saw Ruth Mayfield. The color in his face moved down a shade. Mr. Hayes? Turner. Can I help you, sir? You can. I am paying a bill. Which bill, sir? Mrs. Carter's bill, $4.60. Caleb set a double eagle on the counter. Wade Turner looked at it and did not move. Sir, I cannot accept payment from you on her behalf without her signature. Is that the law, Turner? That is store policy, Mr. Hayes. Store policy. Yes, sir. Then change your policy, sir. I am standing in your store with money in my hand and 2 witnesses at my back, and you will take this coin, and you will mark that debt paid, or you will explain to the sheriff why a merchant refuses to close an account in front of God and everybody. Wade Turner's hand went slow for the coin. Not yet, Turner. Sir, I want a receipt. Of course, sir. Written plain. Mrs. Eleanor Carter paid in full on this date by Caleb Hayes of the Hayes Ranch with Ezra Boone and Ruth Mayfield standing witness. Mr. Hayes. Write it, sir. Wade Turner wrote it. His pen scratched loud in the quiet store. Ruth Mayfield did not move. Ezra Boone did not move. 2 women who had come in for flour stood near the back and did not move either, and one of them was already taking down in her head every word that was being said. There, sir. Sign it. I have signed it. Under your signature, sir, I want you to write the date and the hour. Sir, the hour Turner. Wade Turner wrote the hour. Caleb Hayes picked up the receipt, folded it twice, slid it into his vest pocket, and tipped the coin onto the counter. One more thing, Turner. Yes, sir. The paper. What paper? The paper you have been circulating about Mrs. Carter. That is a citizen's petition, Mr. Hayes. It is not mine to surrender. It has your signature at the top. 11 men signed it, sir. 10. I beg your pardon. 10. George Mayfield has taken his name off this morning. Wade Turner's eyes cut to Ruth Mayfield. Ruth Mayfield looked back at him with a face so still it might have been cut from oak. Mr. Turner? Mrs. Mayfield, my husband signed that paper because you hold the note on our north pasture. I know it. You know it. My husband knows it. And my husband has asked me this morning to tell you plain that he is withdrawing his name, and if you choose to call that note early because of it, then you will be calling it in front of a courtroom that is already going to hear a great deal about your methods on Monday. Mrs. Mayfield, that is a threat. No, sir. That is arithmetic. Mr. Hayes taught me the word yesterday. Ezra Boone made a sound that was almost a laugh. He turned it into a cough. Caleb Hayes tipped his hat to the 2 women at the back of the store. Mornin', ladies. Mornin', Mr. Hayes. I believe you both heard what was said in here just now. We did, sir. I would be obliged if you would tell it accurate and often. We will, sir. Thank you. He walked out of Wade Turner's store with his 2 witnesses behind him, and he did not look back, and Wade Turner stood at his counter with his receipt book open and his face the color of old paper. They went to the church next. Reverend Amos Pike was in the vestry polishing the communion silver because Saturday was the day a preacher prepared for Sunday, and he had not expected company. He looked up and saw Caleb Hayes and put the cloth down. Caleb. Reverend. Have you come to talk? I have come to tell. All right. Reverend, you preached a sermon 6 weeks ago on the widow of Zarephath. I did. You said the Lord sent Elijah to her door because nobody in her own town would open theirs. I did say that. You said the measure of a congregation is the widow it has not fed. I said that too. Reverend, there is a widow 2 miles out of this town who has been eating scraps off your boardwalks for 11 months, and a petition has been signed against her by 9 of your deacons. And I am here to ask you, sir, as a man who has stood in your pulpit and heard you preach, whether you intend to ride out to my ranch on Monday morning, or whether you intend to stay in town and let that petition do your talking for you. Reverend Pike sat down on the vestry bench. He sat there a long moment. He was a man in his 60s, and he had not been a young man in his faith for a long time, and he had grown comfortable the way a tree grows comfortable in a field with no wind. Caleb? Reverend. I did not sign that petition. I know you did not, sir, but you have not spoken against it either. No. Why, sir? Because Wade Turner gives $300 a year to this church, Caleb, and the roof leaks, and the bell rope is fraying, and the widow Harrelson needs her coal paid for come November. Reverend. I know, Caleb. Reverend, I am not asking you to preach against Wade Turner. I am asking you to ride out to my ranch on Monday morning and stand beside a woman whose little boy almost died on Thursday night. He almost died. Fever. Dr. Whitfield came at 3 in the morning. The boy is alive because a woman who has not slept a full night in 11 months held him in her arms and sang to him until the fever broke. Reverend Pike closed his eyes. Caleb. Reverend. Tell Mrs. Carter I will be at the hearing. Thank you, sir. And Caleb. Sir. Tell her I will be at her door this afternoon, with my wife, with a ham, and with an apology she is not required to accept. Caleb Hayes touched the brim of his hat. I'll tell her, sir. They rode out of town at noon, and by the time they reached the ranch, Ruth Mayfield had already begun to laugh under her breath at the memory of Wade Turner's face in his own store. Caleb Hayes. Ruth. You are a quiet man. Yes, ma'am. I have seen you ride into town 4 times a year for 20 years and not speak 6 words. That sounds about right. And today you spoke about 400. Had to be done, Ruth. Caleb. Ma'am. She has changed you. Caleb Hayes did not answer that. He did not look at her. He just rode. But a mile from the ranch he said quiet without turning his head. Yes, ma'am. She has. Eleanor was at the well when they rode in. She saw the 3 of them coming, and she set the bucket down, and she walked out to the yard, and she stood there with her hands folded in her apron, the way a woman stands when she is trying not to hope. Mr. Hayes. Mrs. Carter? He swung down. He walked to her. He did not stop until he was close enough that she had to tilt her chin up to see his eyes. Caleb. Nell. Tell me. He took the folded receipt out of his vest pocket, and he put it in her hand. What is this? Your debt to Turner. Caleb. Paid in full, ma'am, with witnesses. On a paper he signed himself. Her hand closed around it. It shook. You did not ask me. No, ma'am. You did not ask me, Caleb. No, ma'am. Caleb Hayes. Yes, ma'am. If you had asked me, I would have said no. I know it, ma'am. That is why I did not ask. She looked down at the paper in her hand. She looked at Ruth Mayfield, who was dismounting slow, because she meant to give them this minute. She looked at Ezra Boone, who was already walking toward the barn, because he meant to give them this minute too. She looked back at Caleb Hayes. Caleb? Nell. What have you done today? I walked into Wade Turner's store in front of 2 women who will tell the whole town by supper time. I paid your debt. I took his petition down to 10 names. I went to the church. I asked Reverend Pike to ride out on Monday and stand for you. Will he? He will. Caleb. Yes, ma'am. The whole town is going to know by sundown. The whole town is going to know by 3 o'clock, Nell. They will say things. Let 'em say. They will say we ye Nell. Caleb, they will say we are living together without Nell. Caleb, listen to me, Nell. He said her name the 3rd time softer than the first 2, and she stopped. Ma'am? Caleb, I am riding back to town on Monday with you and the children. I am standing in that hearing room beside you. And before that judge opens his ledger, I am going to stand up, and I am going to tell him in front of Wade Turner and the sheriff and Reverend Pike and every signer of that petition that Mrs. Eleanor Carter is not an unattached woman living in a bachelor's house. Mrs. Eleanor Carter is the woman I have asked to marry me. Eleanor Carter's hand went up to her mouth. Caleb Hayes. Yes, ma'am. You have not asked me. I am asking you now, Nell. In the yard. In the yard. In front of Mrs. Mayfield. She's a good witness. Caleb. Ma'am, you cannot propose to a woman to save her children. I am not proposing to save your children, Nell. Then why? Because I have sat at that table with you for 11 nights, and I have watched you pour coffee with hands that do not shake when your children are in the room, and shake the minute they leave it. I have watched you mend a shirt of mine. You had no earthly reason to mend. I have watched you sing a fever out of a little boy at 3 in the morning, with a voice I had not heard a woman use in this house since my mother died. I am not asking because of Monday, Nell. Monday made me say it out loud. I would have said it in October. Eleanor Carter was crying. She did not know when she had started. She did not remember her face changing. She only knew that her shoulders had begun to shake, and she could not stop them, and she was not ashamed. And that was the strangest part, that she was standing in a yard in front of another woman crying in daylight, and she was not ashamed. Caleb. Ma'am, I cannot say yes today. His face did not change. He only nodded slow. No, ma'am. Caleb, listen. I'm listening. I cannot say yes today because I will not have you tell that judge on Monday morning that I am your promised wife when I agreed to it in a yard because I was afraid of losing my children. I will not give Wade Turner that story to tell for the rest of my life. I will not give your neighbors that story. I will not give my daughter that story. No, ma'am. I will walk into that hearing room on Monday, Caleb Hayes as Eleanor Carter widow. I will answer what that judge asks me. I will speak for my children. And when the hearing is over and the children are safe, and the town has seen me stand on my own 2 feet in daylight, then you may ask me again. Nell? Then you may ask me again, Caleb. Nell, if Monday goes wrong. Monday will not go wrong. Ma'am, Monday will not go wrong, Caleb, because I am not walking into that room hungry anymore. I am not walking in ashamed. I am walking in as a woman whose boy is alive because a doctor and a rancher and a neighbor and a God I had started to doubt all showed up in the same week. I am walking in as the woman whose daughter asked a man she trusted if her mama was going to be all right, and he said yes. I am walking in standing up, Caleb. And I will not have my first yes to you be a frightened one. Caleb Hayes looked at her a long moment. Then he took his hat off slow, and he held it against his chest, and he said, Yes, ma'am. Caleb. Ma'am. Thank you for not asking me twice. No, ma'am. Thank you for telling me why. Ruth Mayfield from across the yard wiped her eyes on her sleeve and pretended she had been checking her horse. Reverend Pike came that afternoon with his wife and a ham and an apology. He stood on the porch with his hat in both hands, and he said, Mrs. Carter, I have failed you for 11 months, and there is nothing I can say today that makes up for it, and so I am not going to try. I am only here to tell you that Monday morning, when that judge calls for witnesses to your character, the first man on his feet in that room will be me. Eleanor Carter took his hat from him and hung it on the peg by the door. Reverend. Ma'am. Will you sit down and have coffee? Ma'am, I did not come here to be forgiven. I did not offer to forgive you, sir. I offered you coffee. Reverend Pike sat down. Sunday the ranch yard filled up. Dr. Whitfield came at 10 with his written statement and a second statement he had collected from the midwife who had attended 2 of the petition signers' wives. Sheriff Mills came at 11 unofficial in his own coat, and he sat on the porch with Caleb Hayes for an hour. And neither of them said much, and when he rode out, he shook Eleanor's hand. Martha Bell came at noon in a borrowed buggy with a cake. Martha. Eleanor. You rode all the way out. I rode all the way out. Why? Because I have been in my boarding house for 11 months, watching you get smaller. Eleanor Carter. And today I heard from 3 different people that you have got bigger again in 4 days, and I wanted to see it with my own eyes before I died. Martha Bell. Eleanor Carter. They held each other in the doorway a long moment. Sam came up and pulled at Martha's skirt and showed her the sugar twist Josie had saved him from Wednesday because he had not eaten it yet, because he was saving it because a 5-year-old who has known hunger does not eat a piece of candy in 1 day. Martha looked at the sugar. Martha looked at Eleanor. Martha did not cry in public and had not since 1871. She cried then, Monday morning, Caleb Hayes hitched the wagon before dawn. Eleanor came out in the dress Ruth Mayfield had lent her, which was plain and clean, and had been pressed the night before by Martha Bell in Eleanor's own kitchen. Josie wore a pinafore that had belonged to Ruth's daughter. Sam wore a shirt that had been cut down from one of Caleb's. The boy did not know the shirt had come off the back of the man, who had promised him he was not going to die, and the man did not intend to tell him, because some things a child does not need to know for 20 years. Nell? Caleb. You ready, ma'am? I am. Nell. Yes. Whatever happens in that room. I know, Caleb. I need to say it. All right. Whatever happens in that room, Nell, you are coming home with me tonight. That is not a question. That is a fact. The children, too. If the judge says no, we ride to the next county. If the county says no, we ride to the next. I did not pay that receipt on Saturday, so a judge could unpay it on Monday. Is that understood, ma'am? Caleb. Ma'am? It is understood, sir. Good. She climbed up beside him on the wagon seat. She did not sit in the bed with the children. She sat beside him in daylight, where every person on the road between the ranch and Redemption Creek would see her sitting, and she put her hands in her lap and she did not lower her eyes. Hiya, Caleb said. The wagon rolled, and in the courthouse in Redemption Creek, the circuit judge was already taking his coat off, and the clerk was already sharpening his pen, and Wade Turner was already sitting in the front row with his petition in his hand, and he was smiling. He would not be smiling for long. The courthouse in Redemption Creek had not seen a crowd like that since the cattle trial of '87. Eleanor Carter walked in with Caleb Hayes on her right and Josie holding her left hand, and Sam on Ruth Mayfield's hip, because Ruth had asked to carry him, and Eleanor had understood that Ruth needed to carry a child more than Eleanor needed to carry him that morning. Reverend Pike walked in behind them. Martha Bell walked in behind the Reverend. Dr. Whitfield walked in behind Martha, and behind Dr. Whitfield walked 11 women from the back pews of the church who had never in their lives attended a county hearing and who had come because 2 women had stood in Wade Turner's store on Saturday morning and told the truth often and accurate. Wade Turner turned in his seat when he heard them come in. His smile slipped. "Order," the judge said. "Order in this room. Sit down, folks. All of you, sit down." The judge's name was Abner Colton. He was a man of 60 gray tired, and he had ridden 3 days to be there, and he did not intend to be there longer than he had to. "Let's get on with it. Mr. Turner?" "Your Honor." "This is your petition." "It is, Your Honor." "You have signatures." "I have 10, Your Honor. It was 11 on Friday." 10. "Yes, sir." "Mr. Turner, before we begin, I would like you to tell me plain what outcome you are seeking here this morning." "Your Honor, the citizens of Redemption Creek respectfully request that the Carter children be removed from the current residence and placed in the custody of the county until such time as their mother's circumstances can be properly evaluated." "Removed to where, sir?" "To the county home in Fairview, Your Honor." The room stirred. "The county home." "Yes, Your Honor." "Mr. Turner, the county home in Fairview is not to my knowledge a place where a 5-year-old boy recovering from summer fever belongs." "Your Honor, I was not aware the boy had been ill." "You were not?" "No, sir." "Dr. Whitfield." "Here, Your Honor." "Step up, please." Dr. Whitfield stepped up. He laid 2 papers on the judge's desk. The judge read them. He read them twice. He set them down. "Mr. Turner." "Your Honor, Dr. Whitfield writes here that on the night of Thursday last at approximately 3 o'clock in the morning, he attended a 5-year-old boy in the home of Mr. Caleb Hayes, and that the boy was suffering from a summer fever that in his professional opinion would have killed him had he still been living in your town, sir, on scraps from your saloon's back step. Is that an accurate summary, Doctor?" "It is, Your Honor." "Mr. Turner." "Your Honor." "You did not know this?" "No, sir. But you signed a paper asking to remove this boy from the only bed he has slept in months, where a doctor has testified in writing he is being cared for." "Your Honor." "The paper was drawn up before the illness." The paper was drawn up, Mr. Turner, 6 days ago. The illness was 4 nights ago. You had 2 days to withdraw it, sir, and you did not. Your Honor. Sit down, Mr. Turner. Your Honor, if I may. Sit down, sir. Wade Turner sat down. Judge Colton turned in his chair. Mrs. Carter? Your Honor? Step up, please. Eleanor Carter let go of Josie's hand. She walked up to the judge's desk. She did not look at Wade Turner. She did not look at Caleb. She looked at the judge. Mrs. Carter. Your Honor? How long have you been a widow, ma'am? 11 months, sir. How did your husband die? Fever, sir. Debts? Yes, sir. $412. Any of it paid? All of it, sir, except $4.60 that I owed to Mr. Turner's store. That $4.60. Paid on Saturday, sir. By you? No, sir. By Mr. Hayes. Without my knowledge or my permission. The room stirred again. The judge held up his hand. Mrs. Carter. Your Honor? Did you ask Mr. Hayes to pay your debt? No, sir. Did you wish him to pay it? No, sir. Why not, ma'am? Because, Your Honor, I have been working 11 months to pay my husband's debts with my own hands, and I did not wish the last $4 of it to be settled by a man who owes me nothing. Mrs. Carter. Your Honor, when did you first meet Mr. Hayes? 12 days ago, sir. 12 days? Yes, sir. And in those 12 days, ma'am, has he made any improper advance towards you? No, sir. Has he spoken any word to you that your late husband would have been ashamed to hear? No, sir. Has he touched you, ma'am? Once, sir. The room went very still. Once, Mrs. Carter. Yes, sir. When he helped me down from the wagon on the day I arrived at his ranch, he let go of my hand the instant my foot touched the ground. Anywhere else, ma'am? No, sir. Not once. Where do you sleep, Mrs. Carter? On a folded blanket on the floor, Your Honor, between my 2 children. And Mr. Hayes? In his own room, sir, with the door left open so he can hear if one of the children cries. Why open, ma'am? Because, Your Honor, on Thursday night my little boy nearly died, and Mr. Hayes heard him cough and he came. If that door had been closed, sir, I am not certain my son would be alive to hear this herein. Judge Colton was quiet for a long moment. Mrs. Carter. Yes, sir. Step down, please. Yes, sir. Mr. Hayes. Caleb stood up. Your Honor. Step up. Caleb stepped up. Mr. Hayes, I have known of you for 20 years, never met you. I have heard your name spoken maybe 4 times in 4 different counties, and each time by a man who owed you a favor he had not been able to return. Your Honor. Mr. Hayes, what are your intentions toward Mrs. Carter? Your Honor, I intend to marry her. A sound went through the room. Reverend Pike's head bowed. Martha Bell put her hand over her mouth. Wade Turner's jaw moved and did not make a word. You intend to marry her? Yes, sir. Have you asked her? I have, Your Honor. When? Saturday afternoon, sir. In my own yard. In front of Mrs. Ruth Mayfield, who is seated behind me and who will stand and say so if you ask her to. And her answer, sir? Caleb Hayes hesitated for the first time. He looked at Eleanor. Eleanor nodded once small. Your Honor. Her answer was not yes. The room stirred hard. Judge Colton raised one finger, and the room went still again. Not yes, Mr. Hayes. No, sir. Was it no? No, sir. Well, which was it, man? Your Honor, Mrs. Carter said she would not give her answer on a Saturday, when she was afraid of losing her children on a Monday. She said she would walk into this room as Eleanor Carter, widow, and answer to you plain, and that if I wished to ask her again, I could ask her again, but not before. Judge Colton sat back in his chair. He sat back a long time. Mr. Hayes. Sir, in 26 years on the bench, I have not heard an answer to a marriage proposal that did more credit to the woman who gave it. No, sir. Sit down, Mr. Hayes. Yes, sir. Reverend Pike. Here, Your Honor. You signed this petition. I did not, Your Honor. Did you speak against it? Reverend Pike stood. He was an old man, and he did not look old that morning. He looked like a man who had finally remembered what he had been ordained to do. No, Your Honor. I did not speak against it, and I am ashamed to this day that I did not. I had been told by Mr. Turner that to speak against it would cost this congregation $300 a year. I put a roof over the silence of a widow in exchange for a roof over my church. I will carry that sin to my grave, Your Honor, but I will not carry it out of this room. Mrs. Eleanor Carter is the most honorable woman who has set foot in Redemption Creek in the 11 months I have watched this town try to break her, and any man who puts his name on a paper against her from this day forward will answer to me from my pulpit by name every Sunday until he removes it. Wade Turner's face went the color of whey. Judge Colton nodded once. Thank you, Reverend. Sit down. Yes, sir. Sheriff Mills. Your Honor. You rode out to the Hayes Ranch on Friday afternoon. I did, Your Honor. Your observations. Clean porch, Your Honor. Washed apron, sober woman, fed children. Doctor's note on the table. Ranch in good order. Ranch hand respectful. Mr. Hayes present sober. And in my opinion, Your Honor in love. The room broke into a sound that was half laugh and half sob, and Judge Colton did not silence it that time. Thank you, Sheriff. Your Honor. Judge Colton folded his hands. Mr. Turner. Your Honor. Stand up, sir. Wade Turner stood. Mr. Turner. I have in front of me a petition with 10 signatures on it. I have in front of me a sworn doctor's statement, a sheriff's testimony, a preacher's confession, the testimony of the woman herself, the testimony of the man in whose house she resides. And I have, Mr. Turner, the word of 11 women from your own church who walked into this room behind Mrs. Carter unsolicited, and who will tell me if I call them one by one that you have spent the past 6 days leaning on their husbands in the back of your store. Your Honor, I have not finished, sir. No, sir. Mr. Turner, this petition is denied. The Carter children will remain with their mother. Their mother will remain where she chooses. And Mr. Turner. Sir, I am entering into the record today a formal caution against you to be kept on file with this court, warning that any further action on your part against Mrs. Eleanor Carter or against any person in this county who offers her kindness will be treated by this bench as harassment and prosecuted. Your Honor, this is— Sit down, Mr. Turner. Your Honor, this is not— Sit down, sir, or I will have you removed. Wade Turner sat down. This hearing is adjourned. Mrs. Carter, come up here, please. Eleanor walked up. The judge leaned over the desk. His voice was quiet only for her. Mrs. Carter. Your Honor, ma'am. I have a daughter your age. She lost her husband in '84. She writes to me once a month and she tells me plain she is ashamed of being alone. I am going to write to her tonight, ma'am, and I am going to tell her about a widow I met this morning in Redemption Creek who walked into my courtroom with nothing but the truth and walked out of it with her children beside her. Do you mind if I tell her, ma'am? No, Your Honor, I do not mind. Thank you, ma'am. Your Honor. Yes. Thank you. Good day, Mrs. Carter. Good day, sir. She walked out of the courthouse with her daughter's hand in hers, and Sam reaching for her from Ruth Mayfield's hip, and Caleb Hayes 3 steps behind her, because he had understood without being told that she needed to walk out of that building under her own feet. The boardwalk was crowded. Eleanor did not lower her eyes. She did not lower them when she passed the same women at the pump who had whispered 12 days ago. She did not lower them when she passed the saloon where her son had eaten bread off the ground. She did not lower them when Wade Turner came out of the courthouse behind her and stood at the top of the steps and tried to catch her eye one last time. She walked past him. She did not see him. And a man who has not been seen in a town that lives by being seen is a man who is finished there. Caleb helped Sam into the wagon. Then Josie. Then he turned to Eleanor. Nell. Caleb. You want to ride home? Not yet, sir. Ma'am. There is something I need to do first. She turned around. She walked back down the boardwalk. She walked past Martha Bell and Ruth Mayfield and Reverend Pike and Dr. Whitfield, who all stopped and watched. She walked to the corner of the saloon, to the warped water barrel, to the patch of dust where she had knelt with her children 12 days earlier. She bent down. She picked up a small pebble from the dirt. She put it in her apron pocket. Then she walked back to the wagon, and she let Caleb Hayes hand her up to the seat beside him in daylight in front of the whole town, and she sat down with her back straight and she faced forward. "Hiya," Caleb said. The wagon rolled. 3 miles out of Redemption Creek, where the road bent toward the river and the cottonwoods, Caleb Hayes slowed the team. "Nell." "Caleb." "Ma'am?" "Yes, sir." "I told you in that courtroom I intended to marry you." "You did, sir. I am asking you now, ma'am, out loud, in daylight, with nobody listening but your children and God and these 2 horses." "Caleb." "Nell." "I cannot promise you an easy life, sir. I ain't asking for one. I come with debts I have buried and pride I have not, and 2 children who will cost more to feed every year they grow, and a town 2 counties over that still has my husband's name on its ledgers. I know all that, ma'am. I come with a temper, Caleb. I have not seen it, ma'am, but I am not afraid of it. I come with grief, sir. It does not leave. I have learned that it does not leave. It only makes room for other things beside it. Yes, ma'am. If you marry me, Caleb Hayes, you will be marrying a woman who loved another man first and buried him and has not stopped missing him. You will be marrying a woman who will say his name sometimes by accident and cry at the sound of it. You will be marrying a woman whose heart is not new, sir. Do you understand what I am telling you?" "Yes, ma'am." "Do you still want to?" Caleb Hayes stopped the wagon. He took his hat off. He turned on the bench and he faced her. "Nell." "Caleb, I am 41 years old. I have loved exactly one woman in my life, and that was my sister, and I failed her. I have worked a ranch alone for 15 years, and I have not missed company because I did not believe I deserved any. I am not offering you a new heart, ma'am. I am offering you a used one that has known grief also and has room in it. You loved a good man. I will not ask you to stop. I am asking only that there be room eventually for a second name alongside his. That is all I am asking, Nell." Eleanor Carter reached into her apron pocket. She took out the pebble she had picked up from the dust outside the saloon. She held it in her open palm. "Caleb." "Yes." "Do you see this?" "I see it. 12 days ago I was on my knees in the dirt this came from. My boy was eating bread off the ground. My daughter was lying to me about whether she was hungry. A man I did not know put his shadow across us and said, 'Get up.' I did not believe him, Caleb. I came with him because I had run out of doors, not because I believed him." "Yes, ma'am." "I believe him now." She closed her hand around the pebble. She looked Caleb Hayes in the eye. "Yes, Caleb." "Nell." "Yes. Say it once more, ma'am. I would like to hear it twice." "Yes, Caleb Hayes, I will marry you." He did not kiss her. He took her hand, the one with the pebble in it, and he held it a long moment in both of his, and then he let it go. She put the pebble back in her apron pocket. She would keep that pebble for the rest of her life. In 30 years, her granddaughter would find it in a wooden box under Eleanor's bed, and ask what it was, and Eleanor would say plain, "It is the day I learned that the ground I was kneeling on did not belong to me anymore." But that was 30 years off, and the wagon was on the road now, and there was supper to start. They were married 3 Sundays later by Reverend Pike in the yard of the Hayes Ranch, because Eleanor Carter did not wish to be married in the church of a town that had tried to take her children, and Reverend Pike had understood without being asked. Ruth Mayfield stood with her. Ezra Boone stood with Caleb. Martha Bell made the cake. Dr. Whitfield came, and Sheriff Mills came, and 11 women from the back pews of the church came, and Wade Turner did not come, because Wade Turner was by then closing his store and preparing to sell his stock and leave for Colorado, where nobody had heard the name Carter, and where his own name had not yet been written on a court record that would follow him. Josie wore the pinafore Ruth Mayfield had given her. Sam carried the ring on a scrap of clean white cloth. He did not drop it. He had practiced for 6 days. When Reverend Pike asked Eleanor if she would take this man, Eleanor did not say yes right away. She looked at her 2 children first. Josie nodded serious as a judge. Sam nodded so hard his hair bounced. Then Eleanor Carter said, "I will." And that was the end of the old story and the beginning of the new one. The ranch grew. The children grew. Sam Carter became Sam Hayes on the day he turned 8 because he asked. And Eleanor wept, and Caleb signed the paper the same afternoon. Josie kept her father's name until she was 15, and then she asked too, and Caleb signed that one as well. A third child came the year Eleanor turned 32, a girl, and they named her Ruth, and Ruth Mayfield stood as godmother and did not stop crying through the whole baptism. The town of Redemption Creek never quite forgot what it had tried to do. It never quite forgave itself either. Years later, when women in that town spoke of the Hayes Ranch, they spoke of it the way people speak of a place that taught them something they had needed to learn. And when Eleanor rode into town, which she did on Saturdays for the rest of her life, women tipped their heads to her, and merchants came out from behind their counters, and nobody ever again allowed a widow to kneel in the dust outside the saloon with her children. Because every time one started to, somebody remembered and somebody moved. Eleanor Hayes lived to be 73 years old. She died on a Sunday afternoon in June, in the bed she had shared with Caleb for 31 years, with her daughter Josie holding one hand and her granddaughter holding the other, and Caleb already 3 years in the ground ahead of her, waiting the way he had waited on that ridge for 11 months before he finally came down it. The last thing she said they tell it in that county still was this. She opened her eyes and she looked at her daughter and she said, clear as morning, "Josie, tell your brother I am going home now." And Josie Hayes, 60 years old and weeping, said, "Yes, Mama, I will tell him." And Eleanor Hayes closed her eyes and she smiled and she went. She was buried beside her husband under the cottonwood at the bend of the river on the land that had been theirs, and the stone above her did not say widow, and it did not say wife, and it did not say mother. It said only this in plain-cut letters by her own instruction written out to the stonecutter 2 years before she died. Eleanor Hayes. She was seen, she was home, and she was.